Sidney Omen Brown wasn't just another name in the music credits. He was a heartbeat, a silent architect of the soundtracks that defined a generation. His passing at the age of 49 sent shockwaves through the industry, leaving fans stunned and fellow musicians in mourning. But Omen's story isn't only about loss. It's about the rise of a creative visionary who managed to shape modern music from behind the scenes. His journey, from the streets of Harlem to Grammy-winning success, is as inspiring as it is emotional. And today, we're going to step into that journey and uncover the man who gave us unforgettable soundscapes. So stick with me and don't forget, if you love stories like this, make sure you're subscribed because we dive deep into the lives of the people who create the music you love. Sidney Brown was born on August 21st, 1976, in Harlem, New York, a place where rhythm was part of everyday life. Harlem has always carried a reputation as a cultural melting pot, a community where jazz legends left their mark, hip-hop was born, and voices from gospel choirs rang out every Sunday morning. Growing up in that kind of environment, young Sidney was surrounded by music everywhere he turned. The beats from block parties mixed with the soulful echoes from neighborhood churches, and the lyrical energy of rap battles filled the air. For him, music wasn't just entertainment, it was life itself. As a teenager, Sidney was curious. He didn't only listen to the music blasting on the streets. He studied it. He wanted to know why certain beats made people move, why certain melodies tugged at emotions. That curiosity soon transformed into passion, and he started experimenting with sounds and production. The late 90s was a time when hip-hop was exploding, and Omen was quietly building his own lane, perfecting the skills that would one day put his name alongside the very artists he admired. His break came in 2006 when he co-produced Tell It Like It Is for Ludacris on the album Release Therapy. Now, this wasn't just a track buried in the track list. It was part of a project that went on to win the Grammy for Best Rap Album in 2007. That recognition was huge. It wasn't just Ludacris who won. It was a moment that put Omen on the map. Suddenly, people in the industry started paying attention. Who was this guy from Harlem who could create such a distinct, polished sound? That Grammy win wasn't the peak of Omen's career, but it was the door opening.
Fast forward a few years, and Omen's name started appearing in places fans couldn't ignore. In 2010, he linked up with Drake for Shut It Down on the album Thank Me Later. This was Drake's debut studio album, the moment the Toronto rapper was stepping fully into the global spotlight. And Omen's production was right there with him, shaping one of the album's most memorable tracks. Shut It Down wasn't just a song. It was a vibe, a late-night anthem that blended sultry R&B with introspective hip-hop. Fans loved it. Critics noticed it. And most importantly, it cemented Omen as a producer who knew how to bring out an artist's deepest emotions. But Omen didn't stop there. In 2013, he was tapped for one of the biggest projects of the decade, Beyoncé's self-titled album. On the track, Mine, featuring Drake, Omen's production brought together two powerhouses in a way that felt effortless. The song was intimate, almost haunting, and the atmosphere he created turned it into something fans still talk about today. It showed his versatility, not just a hip-hop producer, not just an R&B producer, but a creative who could blend genres seamlessly, crafting sounds that cut across boundaries. Beyoncé's album was a cultural event, and Omen's role in it proved that he wasn't just passing through the industry, he was shaping it. Beyond the star power, Omen worked with a variety of artists, Lil Wayne, Maya, Fabulous, and others, each collaboration adding another layer to his reputation. What stood out about Omen wasn't only the list of names he worked with, but the way he adapted to each one. Every artist has a different voice, a different energy, and Omen had the rare ability to match that while still leaving his own unique imprint. That adaptability is what separated him from so many other producers. He didn't just make beats, he crafted experiences tailor-made for the artist, but always infused with his signature touch. Yet for all the success he found in the studio, Omen never let fame change him. He remained deeply connected to Harlem, to his community, and to the simple joy of sharing music with others. For over a decade, he worked at Wine, a wine bar in Harlem, where he became more than just an employee. He was family, Patrons and staff remember him as someone who brought light into the room, someone who always carried good energy, and someone who made everyone feel welcome. That connection with people, outside of the flashing lights and big stages, was part of what made Omen special. He also DJ'd at Ethel's Bar and Restaurant in New York, bringing the same energy to the dance floor that he brought to the studio. People loved his sets, not just because the music was good, but because he knew how to create an atmosphere. He knew how to read the room, how to keep people moving, how to make the night feel unforgettable. Even though he had Grammy-winning credits to his name, he was still down to earth, still spinning records at a neighborhood spot, still giving joy to the people right in front of him. That humility is rare, and it's one of the reasons people in Harlem loved him so much. But then came September 13th, 2025. Sidney Omen Brown was found in his Harlem apartment, gone far too soon. His mother, Martha Brown, confirmed the heartbreaking news. At only 49, Omen's passing shocked not just his community, but the entire music world. No cause of death has been made public, leaving questions unanswered and grief unresolved. Fans, friends, and fellow musicians rushed to pay tribute. Social media was flooded with posts remembering the impact he had, both as a producer and as a person. It was a moment that underscored just how fragile life is, and how quickly even the brightest lights can be dimmed. And yet, Omen's story doesn't end there. His music, his influence, and his spirit live on through the tracks he created and the people he touched. Even though he's gone, his beats continue to play, his artistry continues to inspire, and his name continues to resonate. And that's the thing about legacy, it outlives us. Omen's work wasn't just about making hits, it was about capturing emotions that stay with people forever. That's why fans still play those songs, still talk about those collaborations, still feel connected to the man behind the music. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, you know Omen's story is about more than credits on an album. It's about resilience, creativity, and the power of staying true to your roots even when the world is watching. And trust me, we're only just getting started. In the second part of this story, we're going to dive deeper into his legacy, his impact on the industry, and the lessons we can take from his life. So don't go anywhere. Make sure you're subscribed, because what comes next is just as powerful as the story we've already told. When we talk about Sidney Omen Brown, we aren't just talking about a producer. We're talking about a visionary whose fingerprints are all over the music that shaped an era. His death might have shocked the world, but his influence is alive and breathing in the beats, the melodies, and the emotions that pour through the tracks he left behind. To really understand Omen's legacy, you have to look at not just what he created, but the way he created it. Omen had this rare ability to make songs feel alive. Plenty of producers can build a catchy beat, but Omen built emotions. He knew how to give a song room to breathe, how to let a vocal soar, how to layer instruments so that every detail had its place. That's what set him apart. When you listen to something like Shut It Down with Drake, you're not just vibing to background music, you're stepping into an atmosphere. The production doesn't just support the song, it elevates it, turning it into something unforgettable. That's the kind of touch Omen brought to his work, and it's why so many fans didn't just hear his music, they felt it. One of the things people admired most about Omen was his versatility. He wasn't boxed in by one sound or one genre. Hip-hop, R&B, soul, even touches of electronic textures. He could do it all. He wasn't afraid to experiment, and that openness made him a favorite collaborator for artists who wanted to push boundaries. Look at his work with Beyoncé on Mine. That track wasn't straightforward R&B or hip-hop. It was something in between, something layered, something different. That's what Omen brought to the table. He made it possible for artists to step outside of their comfort zones, knowing his production would hold them up. But Omen's genius wasn't only technical. It was personal. Artists who worked with him often spoke about how collaborative he was, how he listened and understood what they wanted to express. He didn't walk into the studio with an ego. He wasn't trying to dominate or overshadow anyone. Instead, he had a gift for pulling the best out of people, for creating an environment where creativity could flow naturally. That's why so many artists trusted him. They knew he was there to make the song shine, not just to stamp his name on a project. And that's where his humility shines through again. In an industry often dominated by ego and competition, Omen stayed grounded. He was proud of his accomplishments, sure, but he didn't need to be in the spotlight. He was more interested in the work than the fame. That's why you'll rarely see his name splashed across headlines in the same way as the artists he worked with. But if you look closely at the credits, you'll see him everywhere. That quiet power is part of his legacy, proving that you don't have to shout to be heard. Let's not forget the community side of his life, because this is just as important as his music. Omen wasn't someone who disappeared into the luxury of success. He stayed rooted in Harlem, stayed connected to the people who made him who he was. At Beyoncé, he wasn't the Grammy-winning producer. He was Sidney, the guy who brought good vibes and laughter to everyone around him. At Ethel's, he wasn't some untouchable industry figure. He was the DJ keeping the dance floor alive on a Saturday night. That's what people loved about him. He didn't let the industry change who he was at his core. He understood that the connections we make with people every day are just as valuable as the awards and achievements we collect. When the news of his death hit, the outpouring of love said everything. Fans across the globe, artists at the top of their game, neighbors who had seen him every week, everyone had something to say. And what stood out in all those tributes was not just how talented he was, but how kind he was. People remembered his smile, his energy, his generosity. In a world where success often comes at the cost of compassion, Omen showed that you could have both. Now, let's zoom out for a second, because Omen's story speaks to something bigger about music itself. We often celebrate the faces on the stage, the singers, the rappers, the performers, but behind every great artist, there's a team of creators shaping the sound. Producers like Omen are the architects. They're the ones building the framework, setting the mood, making the music stick in your memory. And yet, most of the time, their names don't get the recognition they deserve. Omen's career is a reminder to look beyond the spotlight, to pay attention to the people working tirelessly behind the scenes to bring songs to life. That's part of why telling his story matters. It's not just about honoring one man, it's about honoring all the unsung heroes in the music industry. Omen's success shows that you can leave a massive cultural impact without being the one holding the microphone. It challenges us as fans to dig deeper, to know who's shaping the music we love, and to appreciate the collective effort that goes into making a single track. But even though Omen may not have sought fame, his influence on popular culture is undeniable. Think about the early 2010s, an era when Drake was becoming the voice of a generation, when Beyoncé was redefining what it meant to be a global superstar. Omen was right there in those moments, contributing to projects that would define careers and eras. That's not just coincidence. That's talent, consistency, and trust. Those artists didn't just happen to work with him. They chose him because they knew he could deliver something special. And he always did. The hardest part about talking about Omen's passing is the sense of unfinished work. At 49, he was still in his creative prime. Who knows what collaborations he might have had in the future? Who knows what new sounds he would have explored? The music world lost not only a great producer, but also years of potential innovation. That's what makes the loss sting even more. The knowledge that we'll never get to hear the songs he still had inside him. And yet, his legacy is far from incomplete. Because the music he left us is timeless. Those tracks don't age. They still hit as hard today as they did when they. That's the hallmark of true artistry. It doesn't fade with trends, it endures. Omen gave us music that will keep resonating for decades, and in that way, he's still here with us. So, what can we take away from Sidney, Omen Brown's life? First, that greatness doesn't always come with a spotlight. You can change the world quietly, through dedication and authenticity. Second, that staying true to your roots matters. No matter how far Omen went in the industry, he stayed connected to Harlem, to his community, to the people who made him. And finally, that music is about more than charts and awards. It's about connection. It's about the way a song makes you feel, the way it stays with you long after the last note fades. That's what Omen understood better than most, and that's why his legacy will never die. Sidney Omen Brown may no longer be here physically, but his story, his sound, and his spirit continue to live on. The next time you hear Shut It Down or Mine, listen closely. Listen to the layers, the textures, the emotion built into the track. That's Omen speaking to you, reminding you that music is eternal. And as long as we keep listening, he'll never be gone. If this story moved you, if Omen's life and legacy inspired you, then make sure you hit that like button right now. Share this video with your friends so his story can reach even more people. And if you want to keep hearing stories about the unsung heroes of music, the producers, the writers, the visionaries who rarely get the spotlight, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. We're building a community of music lovers who appreciate the artistry behind the hits, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Because just like Omen's beats, this journey is only getting started.